identity and mental health. Identity ਹੁਣ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ identity would be ਆਪਣੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ, right? And identity is so important, especially ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਦੇ ਲਈ. ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ, and honestly ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਦੀ like soch about ourselves is more important than anything, and that is heavily impacted in motherhood. Te appa apne culture ch inni gall nahi karde, you know, mental health di appa inni gall nahi karde. So I'm pretty sure my mom's doctor probably did not tell her about postpartum depression, because I was also born in India. So evi sochna ke the women that give birth in India versus here, right, it's so different too. And so we can see maybe our moms never, you know, got treated for postpartum, never acknowledged it, and it could have prolonged, could have went on for further pregnancies without them even knowing, affecting their mental health. And you know, I know we definitely see like changes on our new generation mothers and our old generation mothers, and a lot of it has to do with what we know about motherhood and the changes of it. So it's a big topic, and we're not going to get a big change, but I think ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਹੁਤ ਫਰਕ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਆ. This is the one big step, just talking about it, right? Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So the quote, motherhood is not erasure of self, it's the expansion of yourself. Your identity doesn't disappear, it evolves. So even though you know, becoming a mother changes you, it's not in a bad way. It really sharpens your identity, as like, and so ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਹੈ how to manage that well, so you don't lose yourself, because ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਖੋ ਨਾ ਜਾਇਓ while you are trying to hold on to all these roles as a wife, as a mom, as a daughter-in-law, as a person. You are still a person at the end of the day, Hana. So this talks about, yeah, Jyoti, tere man da vaham, right? We hear that so much in our culture, and it's so normalized, and that's why it gets so overlooked. And so like we're seeing this, so this aha jehdi statistics hai, ਇਹ ਸਿਰਫ ਦੇਖਦੀ ਆ women in America. ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸੋਚੋ ਜੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨੰਬਰ ਇੰਨੇ ਘਟਿਆ, imagine number ਕਿੰਨੇ ਹੋਗੇ for just South Asian women, right? So sirf 15% of women get treatment. Sirf 15% of the entire population of women get treated for you know, postpartum depression, OCD, anxiety. That means that apne sirf South Asian women community is probably much smaller, right? And 1 in 5 women will suffer from maternal mental health disorder, like postpartum depression. It's very common, it's very normal, and it is very, very like, you know, we can change it, we can heal from it. So it's not something that will stick forever. And 1 in 7 women will experience depression during pregnancy. So sat women show, there's always going to be 1 woman that is going to experience depression. Hundaya, I know Jasleen mentioned baby blues earlier. So baby blues bhi hundaya, the postpartum depression bhi hundaya. Postpartum depression thode chir le jada hundaya, and also ode affects thoda jada ਭਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, like ਦਿਮਾਗ ਤੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਬੋਝ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ than baby blues would. So it's just, you know, like Jyoti said, ਤੇਰੇ ਮਨ ਦਾ ਵਹਿਮ ਆ. So that's what gets said if this topic is brought up, right? And there also, we talked about it earlier, just because moms are going through it, it affects ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ affect ਹੁੰਦਾ family ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. You know, ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੇ culture ਚੋਂ ਆ ਕੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਜਾਣੇ ਨੂੰ ਕੁਛ ਹੁੰਦਾ family ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੁੱਖ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਆ, right? So this impacts everybody. If mom is not doing good, everybody else is going to also kind of, you know, bounce off from that and feel those things. So that is another thing to take into consideration. And also dads will also experience mental health disorder after the birth of their child. They're also going through a different identity too. That's probably a much different topic to talk about, but like the motherhood, it affects everyone in the family. So, and we can go on to the next slide. Okay. So just mental health overall, apni community de vich, it's not normalized. Aapa gal nahi karde, you know. ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਆ like we're feeling depressed ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ therapy ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ or ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ wow ਤੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਪਾਗਲ ਆ you're crazy something's wrong with you right ਏਦਾਂ ਸੋਚਿਆ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਣੀ community ਤੇ it's not wrong it's just ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜ਼ਮਾਨੇ 'ਚ ਇਹ ਸੋਚਾਂ were implemented it was a different time and ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ like Western societies 'ਚ ਆ ਗਏ ਆ so we are learning how to move with the times and this is like the big step of it talking about it so breaking that stigma in mental health is like the first step to it and that's just talking like what we're doing right now we're breaking stigma we're talking about it ਆਪਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ and it's making a big difference the language we so like ਥੋੜੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ words ਆ depression anxiety burnout ਆਪਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਉਹ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ describe ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ like that's hard ਇਹ ਵੀ ਇੱਕ barrier ਆ like the lack of language ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੁਣ ਮੈਂ try ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਾਸੀਜ਼ and moms ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛਣ ਦਾ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ depression ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ anxiety ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ how can we say burnout and we had a minute like ਆਪਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਹਿ like ਬੋਝ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਤੇ ਬੋਝ ਸੋਚ ਤੇ ਬੋਝ that's really like the only words we could come up with but unless do you guys know of any other way to say it I feel like
Boj is a good one.
Boj.
Tension, stress. Yeah, ਮੈਂ chat ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਖਿਆ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਾਂ ਬਣੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਮਨ ਦੀ ਪਰੇਸ਼ਾਨੀ that's another one ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਸੀ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਮੈਂ ਵਾਕਈ ਪਾਗਲ ਹਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ self doubt ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਹੀਆਂ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਚੁੱਭੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸ਼ਾਇਦ ਹਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਵੀ ਇਸ ਉਮਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਹਜੇ ਤੱਕ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨੇ ਕੋਈ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ that anyone experienced that's huge someone responded that you just had a baby you should be happy that's so
right.
true like हाँ तू सारा what I heard was तेरे च की different आ सारी दुनिया न्याणे जमदी आ and I feel yes there are true statements but the delivery just feels like it's diminished like ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ feel ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕੁਝ ਖਾਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਵੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਆ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ feel ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ maybe I'm not different or like it starts doing something to you again in our South Asian culture having a boy I have 3 boys myself and my experience was like in a way it was very different like ਕਿ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵਾਕਈ ਜਿਹੜੇ in-laws ਦੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਜਾਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਮਾਂ parents ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੁਣਨ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ like I remember growing up I heard a lot of things ਜਦੋਂ ਤੇਰੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਧੀ ਹੋਏਗੀ ਤੇ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗੂਗਾ like and then what it does to you mentally but yeah it's things in our culture that we really need to change and be just more understanding on
I completely agree I think Jyoti you messaged same thing absolutely it is a very happy time but there is so much going on in those first few weeks that I think you need to process and it doesn't take away from how grateful you are about the situation or how celebratory of a situation it is. It just means that you have to have time to process it and definitely something I heard you had a son it's such a happy occasion why aren't you guys happy and we are happy it's just we're also sleep deprived and we're going through a lot and it's just it's going to take a little bit of time so completely agree
yes yeah really good points that is really true it's just apne culture de vich what's been just I guess continued on from generations right having a boy carrying on the family name I think it's definitely shifting a lot now though I definitely you know, बहुत change this दिया उतना a lot of people are celebrating girls, so that is a good thing. But I know it is difficult still to deal with those gender expectations too. Um, and I think that was, I think, oh, sorry, I lost my part. But I think we're talking about lack of language, right? Just having that lack of having ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਭਾਸ਼ਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ. There's no words to express it sometimes, ਹਨਾ? And another thing is spiritual bypassing. So I know religion plays a big part in our culture. And I think apne jede parents or grandparents, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ coping mechanism ਸੀਗੀ ਪਾਠ ਕਰਨਾ, ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਜਾਣਾ, and that is really good. ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਆ. And ਕੋਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਲਈ it really helps. It really, really does. But ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ help ਹੁੰਦਾ, you know, maybe try ਕਰਦੇ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਜਾਣਾ, try ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਪਾਠ ਕਰਨਾ, ਪਰ still ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ still it's like this void and there this feeling of sadness, you know, this void, and ਉਹ ਕਦੀ we need more support from that, you know. I know for some people it helps a lot, and that is wonderful. It is a good coping skill. Hana ਬਹੁਤ ਵਧੀਆ ਆ connecting to to our religion, our faith. But it's also okay to normalize that sometimes ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ we need more. ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਦੀ-ਕਦੀ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ support ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ, ਕਿ ਕਦੀ-ਕਦੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ maybe ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦਾ from just doing part.
I think I will add on to this is, unfortunately, a lot of our gurdwaras don't give space to moms. Not, you know, I breastfed all three of my children. You know, मैं यही सोचती सी कि मैं बच्चे ਨੂੰ ਦੁੱਧ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਦਊਂਗੀ. And I'm sure other breastfeeding moms are feeling the same. You walk into a bathroom stall, you sit there, you feed your baby like right on, you know, in the bathroom. And ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ dignity ਆ, you know, ਕੀ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਹੋ? ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ. ਬੱਚੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਸਾਲ 2 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਬੱਚਾ ਨਵਾਂ ਤੁਰਦਾ ਰਿੜਦਾ ਸਿੱਖਦਾ ਆ, ਉਹ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹਿ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦਾ. You know, ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਮਨ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਲਾਓਗੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਣੀ. I know there are places in Canada ਕਿ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਈ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ. But you know, I think us as women, we need to come together and bring up these issues to our places of worship to make these things more accessible to moms.
Yeah.
Not only will that, you know, create, you know, strengthen the faith in our children ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਧਰਮ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਟੈਚਮੈਂਟ ਹੋਊਗੀ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਕਿ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਿਖਾਈਆਂ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ. ਬਟ ਇਹ ਮਾਵਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ you know, ਕਿ ਅਰਚਨਾ ਆ, a hindrance to going to the gurdwara, because you know, there's so many limitations on what you can do as a mom. And you know, you go to the car and feed your baby, or just, you know, people looking like apna nyana kyun nahi chup kara sakdi, or you know, we're not our community needs to do better.
Yeah, true. And Jyoti even mentioned in the comments about how much it was emphasized, right? So Jay, maybe I'm wondering my mom, right? Maybe Jay मेरी मम्मी ने गल कीती होवे किसी नाल, उन्होंने most likely दस्या होगा कि पाठ कर, you know, गुरुद्वारे जा, you're gonna feel okay. But I just wonder, I'm sure that helped her, but I just wonder if it could have helped more for someone who maybe needed more support. So that is a true thing, right? It's hard to even, because up under the podcast, it's like meditating almost, like being at peace. Kadi akhaya to be at peace when all the stressors outside, right? Your kids are not sitting down, and you know, the whole are on your mind, stressing you out. So yeah, definitely a very big factor into that.
I feel like and then sometimes maybe some moms can also kind of like feel that guilt that like, oh, like मैं हुनी like पाठ करके हटी and I still don't feel better. Like, is there something wrong? Like, why am I feeling this way? Just because it's been so like put on them ke path kar simran kar, like this is gonna make you like help you feel better, but then they do all those things and then they still don't feel, you know, better.
Like,
yeah, I feel like, yeah, maybe sometimes that could even like push them even further away from like whatever religion that it is that they believe in, you know, just because they're like, okay, well, this didn't work for me, so you know, just kind of like getting away from that stigma. Like definitely it helps. But again, like Jasmine was saying, like sometimes like moms need more than that.
Right, right. And I guess to end it off, we can talk about like the big impacts it is living in countries like America and England or Canada. ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ maybe ਇੰਨਾ support ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਇੱਥੇ because ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਫੈਮਲੀਆਂ maybe ਇੰਡੀਆ ਹਲੇ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਆ ਦੂਰ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਆ ਸੋ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਹੁਣ ਬਹੁਤ shift ਆਇਆ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ culture ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ back then ਹਨਾ ਪਿੰਡ 'ਚ everyone knew right everyone in the ਪਿੰਡ knows you ਜੇ baby ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ everyone in the ਪਿੰਡ is there right ਹੁਣ ਇੱਥੇ ਏਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ like you know ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ society ਏਦਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਥੋੜੀ different ਆ ਸੋ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਥੋੜਾ ਫਰਕ ਪੈ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ maybe ਪਿਛਲੇ ਜ਼ਮਾਨੇ 'ਚ women didn't feel postpartum enough because ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਇੰਨੀ stress ਸੀਗੀ ਕੰਮ ਦੀ feeling ਕੱਲੇ feel ਕਰਨਾ you know things like that so I know ਹਰੇਕ person the life situation is different but I think ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕੁਛ ਚੀਜ਼ ਫੈਕਟਰ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ support family ਜੇ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਫਿਕਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਬਹੁਤ so many stressors here ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ it impacts mental health more you know more for our generations that are taking on a lot of roles and you know women in this generation are doing a lot more than just being moms so we have to validate that for sure and yeah anything else we want to add before we move on to the identity part if not we can move forward maternity leave being so short and daycare being so expensive yeah maternity leaves are not long enough here and you know and daycares are expensive who's going to take care of the baby that's so much to juggle yeah that's true we all stress about that very true
I definitely agree with that. I just have very early personal experience. My baby's 4 months old, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to go back to work, especially because I had long surgeries, and on a day-to-day basis, I'd be at work for so long. So I'm like, I could get a nanny, but then that's just somebody else raising my baby for that many hours a day, all week long. Anyway, I quit.
You quit? Wow.
Yeah, I did. I couldn't go back. I'm like, there's just no way. And so I will return when I feel like it's right. But yeah.
Wow.
I love that actually do what you need to do for yourself before you can take on all these roles
Yeah
that's so true okay we can move on to the next slide then identity ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹਦੀ ਥੋੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ in the previous slides that what impacts identity ਹੁਣ in motherhood ਆਪਣੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ change ਹੁੰਦੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ ਹਨਾ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੇਬੀ ਨੂੰ ਸੰਭਾਲਦੇ ਆ ਫਿਰ toddlers ਨੂੰ ਸੰਭਾਲਦੇ ਆ ਫਿਰ teenagers ਨੂੰ ਸੰਭਾਲਦੇ ਆ ਫਿਰ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਵਿਆਹ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਘਰੇ it's just you and your husband right empty nest syndrome too so ਬਹੁਤ different phases of motherhood ਨਵੇਂ ਮਾਂ ਬਣਨਾ and also ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ when they don't need you anymore right that's also an adjustment you gotta accept at some point so ਆਪਣੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ change ਹੁੰਦੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ you know ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਿਆਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਆ versus ਉਹ ਆਪ ਕਰ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਫਿਰ maybe ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ right that shifts a lot too and ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ pressure ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ especially women ਆਪਣੇ culture ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ it's a lot of pressure I think even men in our culture just our culture in general ਆਪਾਂ ਇੰਨੀ help ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ especially mental health emotional health ਲਈ ਇੰਨੀ ਆਪਾਂ help ਨਹੀਂ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਨੀ ਦਿਲ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ share ਕਰਦੇ and that's just you know stigma ਕਿ ਲੋਕੀ ਕੀ ਸੋਚੂਗੇ if I tell them I'm doing therapy and I'm like depressed for 4 months right ਕੀ ਸੋਚੂਗੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਬਾਰੇ right so ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ women especially ਬਹੁਤ pressure ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ women ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ you know especially when they become moms they expect ke ghar da bhi kam ho jana and Jenny and Jocelyn touched upon this earlier too ghar da bhi kam ho jana and taking care of the baby sometimes dads are not as present you know because there are some men who are very present but sometimes it's not and that also exactly like you know makes it worse and suddenly life is different, so everyone experiences motherhood in a different way. But some people, koi lokan le zyada pressure ho sakda hai to take care of everything, koi lokan le cut. But we have to validate those that don't have that extra support. They, overload on the roles. So ball roles, Blake are they have moms, right? Um, Cook in the house, right? Cleaner in the house, and taking care, finder of the everything in the house, है ना? Making sure everything's okay. And appa sare agree kar sakte hain. Without moms, life is very hard, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they neglect themselves a lot. Jyoti, yeah, you're right. Taking care of themselves, everything else can wait. And I think moms feel like they have to take care of everyone. साਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਆ. And in the end, maybe you apna khayal rakhoge, but I feel like my mom does not practice self-care. I will tell her to, she does not do it. And they feel guilty, like je weekend pe bhi unhone maybe kuch nahi karna hoga, want to relax. She will feel guilty and she will say, "Main koi kaam nahi kita." And I'm like, it's okay to relax, you work hard, it's okay. So they don't get validated enough that it's okay to take your, है ना, ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ normalize ਕਰਦੇ ਕਿ it's okay, ਥੋੜਾ relax ਕਰ ਲੋ, ਕੰਮ ਹੋ ਜਾਣੇ ਆ, ਆਪਣਾ ਆਪ ਦਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖੋ. We don't hear that a lot, and I feel like our parents tell us, but our parents, I don't think they told us, because I know my mom used to tell me when she lived in India, she was waking up early in the morning, milking the cows, doing this, washing dishes. And I know they did not look at it very positively. Okay, hana, ram karna, right?
I think it's also important to say that because I've seen it like in our family, God forbid mom is lying down on the sofa ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਬਾਹਰੋਂ ਬੰਦਾ ਆ ਜਾਵੇ, ਤੂੰ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਪਈ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਸਾਰੀ ਦਿਹਾੜੀ, ਕੋਈ ਕੰਮ ਹੀ ਕਰ ਲਿਆ ਕਰ. Like they don't see every single thing that that person, that mom was doing all day long, and then the one time she finally sits down, 5 ਮਿੰਟ ਬਹਿਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਤੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਕਹਿਤਾ ਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਅੱਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਕੀ ਆ, ਅੱਜ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਕੀ ਆ, ਕੀ ਖਾਣ ਨੂੰ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, ਮੇਰਾ ਆਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਆ. ਲਾਈਕ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਸੁਣਨ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਕੱਢਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਝਿਜਕਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਦੇਖ ਨਾ ਲਵੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਆ.
Yeah, that's really true. I know he like apne culture de vich, it's normalized, right? Mummy needs to be working 24/7. Mummy should not be resting. Apne culture is about normal. It's normalized. And he pehla step ya to change that. Hana apne culture de sare sanskar rakh sakde hain. It's not gonna go away if we just normalize. Hey, can you guys help me take care of this in the house? I just want to rest a little bit. And I mean, appa udda mannade ha ki physically women go through so much, but appa ਇਹ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੰਨਦੇ that they do need rest even after the pregnancy, and mental rest too, for sure. But yeah, to top it off, we talked about sharpening identity, right? Even though I apni pehchan badal diya, our apni pehchan bhi, it gets stronger, right? There's more depth to it. To see apne aap nu, you put yourself in new challenges of being a mom, and that like your experience grows, and so does your identity. So it has a very positive effect in identity, and that's why we need to preserve it. Apni pehchan, apni soch, apne bare, we need to take care of that, because it plays a big role. And also ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਿਆਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ raise ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, right? Your identity of yourself, it mirrors into your children as well. So it is very, very important. And there is some image, I don't know if that's so close, but those are some of the ways that identity can shift. Struggling, as a new mom, sara kuch tusi karna, right? Every expectation ho sakti hai family to that you have to take care of everything, so that shifts in identity. Tusi fir apne aap nu bhul janne a te fir tanu lagda ki mera kam ehi a, ਘਰ ਦੀ take care ਕਰਨ ਦਾ, and to be a mummy, right? That's what happens. And ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਭੁੱਲ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਕੀ enjoy ਕਰਦੀ ਆ ਕਰਨਾ when I'm alone. And ਤਾਂ ਹੀ maybe ਕਦੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਆ, feel ਸੁਣਨਾ, right? It's like, is it peace, or is it like you're missing the chaos, right?
That's so true. Even like something as simple as like one time I asked my mom, like, "Oh, mom, like that, do you favorite sabji kehdi hai?" She's like, "Jo tanu pasand hai," like, "Oh, human nu pasand hai." It's like, no, but like, what do you like? Like you're saying, just mean like you're taking on this role of becoming a mom, but it's really important that you don't let that be your only thing that you have going on. Like, if you liked going to the gym before you became a mom, continue that. If you liked going for walks, if you were a painter, if you liked journaling, it's really important to just take these hobbies along with your journey. Don't just leave it all behind because now you're a mom.
On behalf of
Right.
moms, thank you guys for asking that question. Kitanu ki changa lagla. I think if any children listening out there, just ask your mom, what is your mom like? I think just for her to express what she likes, and maybe you getting an answer from her, that would make her day. So
Yeah.
we appreciate you guys even asking that question.
I think we can move on to the next slide. I know we don't have so much time left, so I'm gonna try to breeze through the little diagnosis that we did talk about with mental health. So, okay, so the ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੁਣ common mental health diagnosis that we will see is postpartum depression. I'm pretty sure ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ maybe ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਪਤਾ postpartum depression ਕੀ ਆ, postpartum anxiety ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ, postpartum OCD ਵੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ, and postpartum PTSD. And ਇਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ after birth. So these all ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ after baby is born. And even if ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲੇ baby ਨਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ feel ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੂਜੇ baby ਨਾਲ ਵੀ feel ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ, and so on. So just because ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਵਾਰੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ experience ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ, it can still happen. And it just depends on like you taking care of yourself and acknowledging that. So it has a lot to do with reflection and just being mindful of yourself. So that's the more common diagnosis. The ਜਿਹੜੇ diagnosis ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ listed ਆ ਇਹ ਆਪਣੇ South Asian community ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ are the most common that are given. But AV percentage बहुत small हो सकता because many women might not know the symptoms. उन्हें पता नहीं होगा कि they are feeling that way, or they don't ask for help. So the census could be a lot smaller than what we are assuming, right? And then there's also adjustment disorder and identity crisis. Adjustment disorder basically ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ there ਵੱਡੀ change ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਚ ਕੀ change ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਸ situation ਦੇ ਨਾਲ adjust ਹੋਣ ਲਈ. So adjustment disorder lasts 3 to 6 ਮਹੀਨੇ, and it's kind of like feeling depressed, stressed, having difficult time sleeping, and it can go over, especially after having a baby. ਇਹ ਥੋੜਾ ignore ho sakta ya, because it can be common symptoms of after having a baby, right? They can think it's just common that you're experiencing this because you just had a baby. So that and identity crisis, what we talked about, right? Tanu pata nahi lagda ki main kaun ya. Like you forget things about yourself as a person, your hobbies, your interests, your goals, aspirations, all those things. And burnout we experience overall already. And imagine how hard it is as a mom, experiencing burnout. It is really, really difficult, feeling very lost and very just like this void, feeling no purpose. So it's not a fun feeling, especially when you just had a baby, right? It's not fun. You want to experience the joy, but these things can hold you back. So Jade, 40% of the symptoms of these diagnoses, eh hunde a after childbirth. Say 33%, it can happen during pregnancy, right? It can happen during pregnancy. Je tusi apne aap da take care nahi karde, you are maybe still working and you're pregnant. Jada stress ho jandi hai to your body, which alleviates up to your mind, right? And things like that, even outside factors. Say 27%, when they get pregnant, they will experience anxiety and depression, and because motherhood is a big, big change in your life. So they could have a thodi, soch they they can have like some distressed thinking, like soch was like they're being scared. Man, am I gonna take care of this baby okay? Am I gonna be a good mom? Things like that. How am I gonna manage everything and be a mom? Especially if they don't have a good support system, how am I gonna financially take care of things? So there's a lot of things to consider about that. And yeah, so I'll show you guys a little brief thing about each of the diagnoses, and I'd love for you guys to share and let me know if you experienced these things, any of these symptoms in your pregnancy, and you just didn't realize until now. So that would be really nice to really hear you guys' feedback. We can go to the next slide. So postpartum depression. So postpartum depression happens after you have a baby, and ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ anxiety feel ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਬਹੁਤ sadness, and ਇਹ like baby blues or just feeling sad, utto bhi jada you will feel a lot more sadder than the normal, right? बहुत ਤੁਸੀਂ tired feel ਕਰੋਗੇ, and ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ also difficulty ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ baby ਦੇ ਨਾਲ time spend ਕਰਨਾ, right? Bonding with the baby, and that could be just, you know, maybe feeding the baby, just being playing with the baby, wanting to be around the baby because you're just so like you're not mentally there. And this can affect the ability for, you know, mom to apne aap da khayal rakhna and the baby. So it's important that we notice that if we see mom feeling negative towards the child, having issues remembering things, anxiety, sadness, body aches, any thoughts of self-harm, loss of energy, you know, having panic attacks, not eating like they used to, khej jana, gusse ch rehna, those kind of things, khana nahi, or, you know, either jada khana ya bahut cut khana, but not normal khana, right? They panic attacks, maybe jada sonde ya cut sonde ya. So these are things that to be mindful for, that, you know, you might see in postpartum depression. And then we can go to the next slide. And then postpartum anxiety. It's very similar. It's very same. Yeah, thodi postpartum depression they not, but it's less depression, they jada fikr, jada, you know, like dar, anxiety. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਫਿਕਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਬੇਬੀ ਠੀਕ ਆ, ਬੇਬੀ ਸੇਫ ਆ, ਮੈਂ ਬੇਬੀ ਨੂੰ ਇਨਫ ਖਵਾਤਾ, ਮੈਂ ਬੇਬੀ ਇਜ਼ ਦ ਬੇਬੀ ਓਕੇ, ਹਨਾ? ਹਾਰਟ ਰੇਟ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਚੈੱਕ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਣੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੈੱਕ ਕਰੀ ਜਾਣਾ ਜੇ ਉਹ ਸੁੱਤੇ ਆ, ਜੇ ਉੱਠਿਆ. So just feeling very anxious, making sure ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੁਝ ਸਹੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ. And you know, you might notice ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ relax ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ, maybe ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ stress feel ਕਰਦੇ ਆ, ਬਹੁਤ tired, ਬਹੁਤ ਫਿਕਰ, ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਬਹੁਤ too many thoughts ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ ਇੱਕ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਮਝ ਲੱਗਦੀ, you know, ਇਹ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ, so much going on. Panic attacks, hyperventilation, you know, having difficulty sleeping, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ heart rate ਵੀ increase ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਆ due to all the, like, you know, the stress and the anxiety, and you might even notice like you're sweating a lot or you're feeling cold a lot. So those are some signs to look at if you think you might be feeling postpartum anxiety.
And to touch base on that a little bit, postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression are commonly in conjunction with sleep deprivation. So a lot of the times when people experience their sleep getting better, and as the baby starts to sleep better and the mom starts to sleep better, a lot of these symptoms actually can go away or at least get better. And of course, there's other things like therapy, medication, but sleep deprivation has a huge component with it as well.
Yeah, for sure, that it really does.
And just to touch up on not just postpartum, but as you mentioned, like going into pregnancy, मैनू बहुत डर हुंदा सी, मैं निक्की जी हैगी, so my whole life I thought मैं किवें जम्मू बच्चे किवें संभालू, but हौसला रखो and just know that there is support, there's resources. जे सहेलियां नाल गल करनी है उन्हां नाल गल कर लो, कदे कदे देखना पैंदा भी social media भी कदे कदे ज़्यादा डर पा दिंदा, so just be careful of what you're seeing and what you're searching for, but just know that there's resources out there भी ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ help कर सके.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is so important. Okay, and so postpartum OCD. So this is another, it's a little similar to anxiety, but having these obsessive thoughts, you know, obsessive thoughts regarding the baby. ज़्यादा डर होगा, you know, बहुत ज़्यादा, how would we say obsessive in Punjabi? Like बहुत, it's like सोचां तन्नू आनियां आ, पर वो बस एक टॉपिक दियां ही सोचां, and वो एक टॉपिक होना या baby, right? So it's just तन्नू ओही तन्नू तुसी सोची जाना baby नू कुछ हो ना जावे, या तुसी maybe बना सकदे आ scenario अपने mind दे विच के what if baby नू इदां हो जावे, right? And that's not healthy, like इदां सोचना. So ਆਪਾਂ maybe ਜੇ ਇੱਕ ਦੋ ਵਾਰੀ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ, we feel like okay, that's not good to सोच, but postpartum OCD, thoughts constantly all day, you know, they are a sara din eh sochan ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਆ, and that is so overwhelming for a person, you know. Yeah, like Jyoti mentioned, not wanting to let anyone but her and her husband carry the baby when they were at the house. And that could be from that anxiety of like, I don't want anyone to do anything to my baby. Like, I want to keep my baby safe, wanting to be that, you know, I want my baby to just be with me, right? And that it can, a lot of compulsive behaviors like that, and some rituals that could be aimed to reducing the anxiety, right? Some, it could be like doing a lot of botch too, you know, we overlook that too sometimes, the coping strategies that are more alleviated than they usually are, where you're seeing it more than normal. So doing pot is good, but when you see it excessively to the point where they're not doing anything besides that to cope themselves down is when it gets concerning, right? And there's also this fear of not being a good enough parent, you know, ਏਦਾਂ feel ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਮੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ, and ਇਹ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਸਕਦਾ ਜੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ outside look comments ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, advice ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਆ ਕਰ, it's overwhelming, like everyone telling you what you need to do, right? So that is postpartum OCD. And then we can go on to the next slide. And the last of the postpartum branch is the PTSD. And PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. The hundaya je maybe a mother has a very traumatic experience during labor, during pregnancy, during the birth time, and they might onanu maybe supne on asakadaya of the time they were giving birth, you know, ohi sochana, or maybe also trying to avoid the topic overall. You know, maybe ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ about their delivery experience because ਉਹਨਾਂ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ it was a drama experience, like it was scary. And going through pregnancy, giving birth to a child is a lot. It's really big. So some, like we talked about, everyone has different paths, and postpartum PTSD can be very, very difficult to deal with. And AV jadda can cause a barrier into being able to take care of your baby, because maybe your baby nu bhi dekh ke yaad aa sakdi hai of the whole experience. So that's also something to be mindful for if these are symptoms you might experience. It could be postpartum PTSD. And we can go into the next slide. And identity crisis, right? So we talked about this, hana, ਆਪਾਂ ਥੋੜੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀਗੀ. Identity crisis ਇਹੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ feel ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਵਾਚ ਗਏ ਆ as a person. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ connected ਨਹੀਂ ਹੋ, ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਪਸੰਦ ਸੀਗੀਆਂ, ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ like, you know, ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ goals, ਉਹ ਥੋੜੇ, they kind of go away, you know, because ਤੁਹਾਡਾ focus ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ being a mom. So ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ mom ਦਾ role ਆ, ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ, ਤੇ ਉਹ ਕਦੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਦੂਜੇ roles, it can overweigh it, right? So it's just about finding a balance of being a mom and being yourself and all your other goals too outside of motherhood. And we can go on to the next slide. And so this is the last diagnosis, which is burnout and adjustment disorder. So we did adjustment disorder is, we talked about it, it's short term. And it just happens कि ਜਦੋਂ someone has trouble going from just a single person going to being a mom is a big shift, right? And like me and Jenny, for instance, we're not moms here, but we can tell you, like, our lives are so busy, right? We are managing being daughters, being, like, you know, siblings, being ourselves, being students, being with our jobs. And we talked about, like, imagine also being a mom on top of that. That is a lot. And it's hard because you have to life change karna penda. That means you have maybe maybe you gym baby aa gaya. No more going gym because that time goes to baby, right? Or maybe no more going out with friends because you've got to be with baby. So idan diyan cheejan de thode changes hoke, it can be hard to adjust. Wo change na adjust hona thoda mushkil bhi ho sakta hai. And that's where adjustment disorder comes in. And then burnout is also a little bit similar, but you will be a lot more agitated. Jado burnout hunda tanu jada gussa hona, jada khid charni a. The adjustment disorder na ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਥੋੜੀ anxiety ਤੇ depression ਹੋਣੀ ਆ. So that is the two different symptoms you can see in those diagnoses. Okay, and then you can go into the next slide. Okay, now before I end off here with you guys, we talked बहुत कुछ मैं ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ, so I'm pretty sure बहुत कुछ information मैं ਦੱਸਿਆ about mental health. ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹਦੀਆਂ ਤਾਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ, ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਉਹ diagnosis ਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ, how can we better, ਆਪਾਂ change ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, how can we heal from it? And first and foremost is normalizing and validating the experience. Apa gallan kariye, right? Even if apa apne family naal, frienda naal, normalizing the conversation. Let's just dil di gal share karo. Nothing more than that. Normalize it. Even in the household, make it normal. It's just talking about mental health, depression, anxiety. We need to talk about it more. Bring it in normal conversations. Setting boundaries, right? Set boundaries for yourself. Apne aap le boundaries set karo. Okay, main every day apne le 15 minute rakhne a. You know, for me, that's it. Or you know, menu help chahidi a with household chores, right? Delegating that to someone in the family, right? If there is someone there, but making those boundaries is so important. And maybe even letting people know, like maybe friends and stuff, if you have a lot of people that rely on you, that hey, you know, I've got to take care of these things, I need to focus more on that. So just setting boundaries in your relationships with yourself and just balancing your life, and then time for oneself, right? Making time for yourself. अपने आप लिए time रखो, very important. 15 मिनट होवे, घंटा होवे, 30 मिनट होवे, अपने आप लिए time रखो, करो जो तुसी enjoy करदे आ, whether तुसी कुछ you know चंगा खाना जो तुसी like करदे आ, book पढ़निया, सोना, anything. You need to give yourself time. The social support is very, very important. You know, अपने friend नाल गल्लां करो, you know, keep friends, keep family दे नाल गल्लां करो, पर एक जाना अपनी life च रखो जिन्नू तुसी अपनी दिल दी गल share कर सकदे आ. Right? All we need is one person sometimes. Sharing that mental load, you know, like we talked about setting boundaries. Apne partner de naal share karo, right? With your husband. Share it with your in-laws. Share it with, maybe if you have older kids. I'm pretty sure, well, you know, older kids, I know they go through a lot, but you know, share it with them. It's okay. Maybe not too much though, but a little bit here and there is okay, just to help yourself out. And challenging that internalized stigma, right? The difference starts with you. ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋਗੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ. ਆਪਾਂ ਇਹ you know ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਫਿਰ ਹੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਚ ਇੰਨਾ big difference ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ you know internalizing that stigma we have on mental health. You know, why are our elders so afraid to talk about it? You know, we need to make it normal, and then maybe they'll feel comfortable enough to share with us. And then last but not least, if you don't have anyone for support, seek professional help. Therapists that are, you know, experienced in motherhood, postpartum, they are very helpful. And don't look too much into that stigmatized thing of therapy. Therapy can be very helpful for people. Peer support groups, mother support groups can be very helpful for people. And then we will show you guys some resources that you guys can reach out to after. But these are some coping skills that you can practice during pregnancy, after pregnancy, and even just overall in life. Okay. But yeah, that's about it for me. Any questions before we close the mental health side into this?
No, I was going to add, you mentioned, you know, talking to your kids about how you're feeling. I actually did that one day. I was having a complete meltdown. मैं बहुत ज़्यादा stress हो गई सीगी, you know, घर च खलारा पिया होया सीगा, सारे मैनू देखदे सी कि खाण नू की हैगा, like मैं रो पई, मैं रो पई ते बच्चों ने मैनू देखा कि इनू की हो गया, like फिर मैं उन्होंने दस्या कि यार तुसी सारा मेरे ते सारा कुछ छड्डिया होया, मैं ही सारा कुछ करनी आ कि अगे तुसी अपनियां फैमिलियां साਂਭਣੀਆਂ ਆ ਤੇ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਚੇਂਜ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਜਾਓਗੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਵੀ ਪਾਰਟਨਰ ਉਹੀ ਸੇਮ ਯੂ نو ਸਾਈਕਲ ਰਿਪੀਟ ਹੋਏਗਾ. ਸੋ ਆਈ ਸੈਡ ਯੂ نو this is what I need. ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਨਾ, you need to tell them exactly what you need. I told them I need this, this, this. I don't want to have to remind you, this is what I need. But it was important for them to see not only me showing emotion, but telling them exactly what I needed. So I will encourage you guys to do that.
Yeah. But that's also such a good point to bring up. Yeah, like, ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਿਆਣਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਦਿਸਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ my mom is more than just a mom. ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇਨਸਾਨ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, right? ਆਪਣੇ ਫਿਰ ਨਿਆਣਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਦਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਆ ਕਿ mom gets overwhelmed too, and that helps them with learning empathy, right? Learning to empathize with what others are going through. So I think that's really good that you talked to him. Honestly, they need to see it. They need to see the real,
Yeah.
real experience.
Tears and everything.
And I think that also goes for like seasoned moms too, like how you said you spoke with your kids, and this is something that affects moms just in general, especially like in our culture, because we emphasize so much burden on just one person. And I think especially like growing up, you see your mom like this is what she was doing, and so it's hard when it's your turn, when you become a mom, it's hard not to fall back into the same patterns. Like I know, like just saying, like she had to quit work because she had to spend time with her baby, and like she doesn't have anybody to take care of her of the baby, and like that's something that my sister did too, and I'm so proud of her for actually like getting back to work and getting back to her daily routines after she was able to like be more stable with her household like schedule and their daily routines. And like you're saying, that talk to your kids, and if you don't, you can't, again, like we can't expect people to just know these things about us. We have to say it to them, like you're saying, okay, antarjami to hunde nahi hage, like we wish they were, but you have to like put that boundary down. You have to advocate for yourself. So yeah, I think these are really great topics that we touched on.
Yeah, one more thing I'll add is, I expressed, apne family de naal ke, I was experiencing mental load like beyond belief. And ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜਵਾਬ ਏਦਾਂ ਦੇ ਤੂੰ ਕੰਮ ਛੱਡ ਦੇ ਫਿਰ ਤੂੰ ਕੰਮ ਛੱਡ ਦੇ ਤੇ ਘਰ ਸੰਭਲਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੂੰ like but I'm just like ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਆਈਡੈਂਟੀਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਅੱਜ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇਕੱਲੀ ਇੱਕ ਮਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀਜ਼ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਜਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਹੋਰ ਵੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕਰਕੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਮਿਲਦੀ ਆ like so like when people come up to you like just pick one, like that's the answer, just pick one, you can't do it all, like so again, just verbalize what your expectations are, what your boundaries are, what you want. Just speak up for yourself.
Yeah, I know my sister, when she was going through like having just delivered a baby, like she told her husband, like, there's no way I can do all of this on my own. You're gonna need to step up. You have to like come in and help. And so it was really good that he was able to like take 2-3 months off of work, because like you said, like it's always get mom nu kam de like to like you stay home, but nobody says it to the dad either. Like, so it's important that it was nice to see that he was able to like, step up and be like, hey, okay, like I'll take time off of work and you just focus on you.
So we have a very short video. We asked some moms to talk about their experience, and we would just like to share it. Just it's a 2 minute video hai kiya. Please enjoy karo.
I think my postpartum journeys both time around have been very different from each other. And I think the main difference comes from having a village around me this time around that I really didn't have as much of last time. I've had a lot of support from my friends and family who have showed up, who've been there in my healing process, who've been there to help me take care of this baby boy. And I think a lot of that was missing from my previous experience. That new knowledge in combination with my previous experience has truly helped as well. It's helped me take care of the baby in a different way. It's helped me understand newborns better. Also being able to take care of myself better because of this new knowledge, whether that's my breastfeeding journey or just internal healing my body physically. It's all been a little bit smoother this time around.
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਮੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਨਰਿੰਦਰ ਕੌਰ ਹੈ ਐਂਡ ਮੇਰੇ ਬੇਬੀ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਮਨਰਾਜ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੈ। ਮਨਰਾਜ ਸਿੰਘ 18 ਅਗਸਤ ਦਾ ਬੌਰਨ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਹੁਣ 8 ਮਹੀਨਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ। ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਗਨੈਂਸੀ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਸੀ, ਇਹ ਮੇਰੀ ਫਸਟ ਪ੍ਰੈਗਨੈਂਸੀ ਸੀ, ਔਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੇਰੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਗਨੈਂਸੀ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਸੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਮੈਂਟਲੀ ਸਟ੍ਰੈਸ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਬੇਬੀ ਦੀ ਕੇਅਰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੀ, ਉਹਦੀ ਨਿਊਟ੍ਰੀਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਧਿਆਨ ਰੱਖਾਂਗੀ, ਮੈਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰ ਕੇਅਰ ਕਰ ਪਾਵਾਂਗੀ ਜਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਪਾਵਾਂਗੀ, ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ। ਔਰ ਮੇਰਾ ਵੇਟ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਗੇਨ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਸੀ ਔਰ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਵੇਟ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੀ, ਲਾਈਕ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਇਫੈਕਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਸੀ ਉਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਮੈਨੂੰ। ਮੇਰੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਆਲਵੇਜ਼ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਸੀ। ਮੇਰਾ ਪੋਸਟਮਾਰਟਮ ਪੀਰੀਅਡ ਬਹੁਤ ਅੱਛਾ ਰਿਹਾ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਨ-ਲॉज ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਰਹੀ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੇਰੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੇਅਰ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ, ਮੇਰੇ ਨਿਊਟ੍ਰੀਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਲਥ ਦੀ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਮੈਂਟਲੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ। ਔਰ ਮੇਰੀ ਲਾਈਕ ਬੈਕ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਇਨ ਇੰਡੀਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ। ਫੀਮੇਲਸ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੀ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਦਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਧਿਆਨ ਰੱਖੋ ਔਰ ਲਾਈਕ ਇਨ-ਲॉज ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਔਰ ਆਪਣੀ ਪੇਰੈਂਟ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਕਹਿਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੀ ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਜਦੋਂ ਫੀਮੇਲ ਨਿਊ ਮਦਰ ਬਣਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਗਾਈਡੈਂਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਵਾਈਡ ਕਰੋ ਔਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰੋ। ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ।
If I could tell my past self one thing, I think it would be don't be afraid to ask for help. You don't have to do it all alone. Healing matters too, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So we can be the best versions of ourselves for our baby. In order to show up for our kids, we have to make sure that we have healed properly or we're in the process of healing so we can be there for them. So I think that's important. We don't have to rush it. There's no competition of who can get there first, but just a matter of getting there. So I think that's important that I would tell my previous self.
So, now we're towards the end here. We would love to open up the floor for any questions if you have. You can feel free to type it into the chat. Have any of my panelists got any questions on their social medias of any comments, or anybody have anything to add? But feel free ke sanu ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰੋ ਯੂਨਾਈਟਿਡ ਸਿੱਖਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੇ ਹੋਰ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ and we would love to get the help of you. Okay, we had a couple of questions. Yes, we would love to talk about specific exercises about your body on how to make sure that we can continue to stay healthy. We appreciate, even you might not be a mom right now, but just knowing what your future might hold. Some people really, we were talking about it earlier. Sometimes people they like to know what they're going to get into before they get into, so that whatever experience they have more knowledge about it. So like, ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਅੱਗੇ ਕੀ ਹੋਣਾ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਬੈਟਰ ਸਮਝ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੀ ਏਦਾਂ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀਗਾ, ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਏਦਾਂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, normal ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ, ਜਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ where we can go. We can go to the next slide that has all of the resources. So again, I work with UNITEDSIKHS ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਉਮੀਦ ਹੈਲਪਲਾਈਨ ਬਣਾਈ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਲਈ। ਆਪਾਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਹਿੰਦੀ ਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਇਹ ਫੋਨ ਨੰਬਰ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸਕਰੀਨ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ 1855 US ਉਮੀਦ। It's 878-633-6333 ਤੇ we would really encourage you to share this phone number with any and everyone ਅਸੀਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਲਈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਵੀ ਨੋ ਕਿ ਹੋਰ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਆ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਬਟ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ, ਆਪਣੀ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ, ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇੰਨੀਆਂ ਰਿਸੋਰਸਿਸ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀਆਂ ਨੇ, ਬਟ we can help out with a variety of things. ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ if you need help finding a therapist, we can help you do that. And also please check with your own insurances. KK insurance therapy vaste cover kardiyan ne, so don't hesitate. There's some social media accounts that you're more than welcome to follow. They just mean, did you want to go over more of these resources?
Yes. So JD for therapy and peer support group, Psychology Today. It's a very great website. Oh, website to see lab sakde hain any mental health specialist, therapist, peer support groups. They to see apni insurance, they apni preferences, they not. So J to see, women chania as a therapist. You can even find Punjabi women therapists. And I am also a therapist in becoming. So in the future, you guys can always, I will try to link that too, find, me too as well. But there are, Jaitanu, maybe Pasandya, more of a group setting. They have a lot of very good groups of moms, peer support groups based on certain topics. So Psychology Today has everything. Use that if you are interested in therapy or support groups and all that good stuff. And online we hunde hai, so tanu jana bhi nahi penda, so you can find them online as well.
Thank you ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ for attending. ਇਹ ਮੇਰਾ email address ਹੈਗਾ ਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੇਸ਼ੱਕ ਮੈਨੂੰ email ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ, and United Sikhs ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ. We would love to buy you a cup of coffee or ਚਾਹ or ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ preference ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ coffee shop ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਾਂ ਇਕੱਲੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸਹੇਲੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ families ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਕੋਈ ਕਾਫੀ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਪੀਣੀ ਹੋਵੇ, ਯੂਨਾਈਟਿਡ ਸਿਕਸ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਛੋਟਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਗਿਫਟ ਕਾਰਡ ਸੈਂਡ ਕਰੇਗੀ, ਐਂਡ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਚੈਟ ਬਾਕਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣਾ ਫੋਨ ਨੰਬਰ ਸੈਂਡ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ, ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਈਮੇਲ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਠੀਕ ਲੱਗੇ. But we want to again thank Jasmine Kaur, Jennifer, Jasleen, and Neha for helping facilitate this wonderful webinar. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I am so grateful for all of you. Thank you so much for your time. If you guys want to say a minute, please do.
Just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for taking time out and spending this hour or 2 hours with us. Especially like for our moms, we know you guys are super busy, and just happy Mother's Day to everybody. And we hope you guys have a great weekend and enjoy with yourself, with your family, friends, kids. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, go have a wonderful Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.